Queer.
Hey man, you know though, man, you know what it is. That right. Yeah. Tripping by music and T. Like it. Yeah. Like it. Yeah. Like it. Yeah. I was feeling suicidal, looking for the answers, couldn't find them in the Bible. Yeah, yeah. But you didn't want to know that, cause all my bitches tell you that I'm good. That's a Kodak moment, yeah. But my real ones got me. I would never fold out, that's what the origami. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Driven, that's the logo. I can tell you I won't quit, but you already know though, man. You know though, man. You know though, man. You know what it is. I'm the only one bringing championship to the crib. Everybody else, you know, they trying to leave out the city, but I move back so I can take it over like Diddy. Building empires take time, that's why I'm patient for this. This might not make radio, cause there ain't no station for this. Greener make some people change up on you out of the blue. Damn, I thought you was my dog, I did not have a clue. Look, I know what these people want, so I just give them what they need, and looking at it from your eyes, it must be devastating. But I got so much work to do, and I ain't got no time for you, and looking at my future goals, and if it's so amazing, amen. Yeah. And they gon' hate this one. Man, it took me like I must have finally made this one. I'm moving on, cause victory is mine, my son. It's tight T and high ride, bad boys, volume 1, what's up? Yeah. I was feeling suicidal, looking for the answers, couldn't I find them in the Bible? Yeah, yeah. But you didn't want to know that, cause all my bitches tell you that I'm good. That's a Kodak moment, yeah. But my real ones got me. I would never fold out, that's what the origami. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Driven, that's the logo. I can tell you I won't quit, but you already know though. Look, I'm the greatest, it ain't up for discussion. If we talking them temptation, boy, then I'm David Ruffin. Man, we did it on our own, nobody gave us nothing. And if your grind don't match your rhyme, then the deuces I'm chucking for real. Look, and ain't nobody does it like I did it. Point the big he gotta admit it. Nothing you say can bother me, cause I'm my biggest critic. 2020's the vision, and I see it very vivid. Look. Man, I'm murder beast, homicide rules I do not abide. Word to Sleepy J, I was raised different. And I got plenty problem 99, but they don't revolve around you. Why me do it? I don't need permission. Yeah. And they gon' hate this one. Man, it took me like 9 months to finally make this one. I'm moving on, cause victory is mine, my son. It's tight T and hard ride, bad boys, volume 1, what's up? I was feeling suicidal, looking for the answers, couldn't I find them in the Bible? Yeah, yeah. But you didn't want to know that, cause all my bitches tell you that I'm good. That's a Kodak moment, yeah. But my real ones got me. I would never fold out, that's what the origami. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Driven, that's the logo. I can tell you I won't quit, but you already know the look. You know what it is, that right. Yeah. Tripping by music and T. Like it. Yeah. Like it. Yeah. Like it. Yeah. I was feeling suicidal, looking for the answers, couldn't I find them in the Bible? Yeah, yeah. But you didn't want to know that, cause all my bitches tell you that I'm good. That's a Kodak moment, yeah. But my real ones got me. I would never fold out, that's what the origami. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Driven, that's the logo. I can tell you I won't quit, but you already know though, man. You know though, man. You know though, man. You know what it is. I'm the only one bringing championship to the crib. Everybody else, you know, they trying to leave out the city, but I move back so I can take it over like Diddy. Building empires take time, that's why I'm patient for this. This might not make radio, cause there ain't no station for this. Greener make some people change up on you out of the blue. Damn, I thought you was my dog, I did not have a clue. Look, I know what these people want, so I just give them what they need, and looking at it from your eyes, it must be devastating. But I got so much work to do, and I ain't got no time for you, and looking at my future goals, and if it's so amazing, amen. Yeah. And they gon' hate this one. Man, it took me like 9 months to finally make this one. I'm moving on, cause victory is mine, my son. It's tight T and high ride, bad boys, volume 1, what's up? Yeah. I was feeling suicidal.
Good evening, brothers, sisters, friends, and kin. This is Pastor Earle Fisher. I'm the senior pastor of Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church in Memphis, Tennessee, and I want to welcome you to another round of Ask the Black Preacher. Let me say a few things as preliminary, as I try to do every week. But first, let me ask all of you to please share this and bring on as many people as possible so we can have a righteous, relevant, robust conversation. Ask the Black Preacher was inspired by my dear brother and friend and comrade in the movement and ministry and in all things righteous, the Reverend Dr. Andre E. Johnson, who is the senior pastor of Gifts of Life Ministries in the Raleigh-Frazier area of Memphis, who is also the assistant professor of communication at the University of Memphis. Dr. Johnson would do Ask the Pastor sessions with his G-Life family. I was inspired by the idea, took the concept, shaped it, made it, put some Earleology to it, if you will. And so now we do the Ask the Black Preachers. Hey, Joseph, and hey, everybody. I'm going to say what's up to everybody in just a second. We do Ask the Black Preacher now every week. I'm actually calling this round 25, so this is my confession. I don't know if this 25th round is probably well past the 25th round, but since 25 was my basketball number, and I want to make sure I start keeping up with the number of these that we do without having to go back through all of the Facebook and Instagram or the YouTube stuff. I'm just starting with 25 this week. But I thank all of you for tuning in. I seen my dear brother Stephen Lewis, who is with the Forum for Theological Exploration, was on. Peace and love to him. Antoine Whitehead, my family Kyle Stevenson. I seen Joe Reeves and Reverend Dr. Oscar Sewin. Peace and love, all of y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I cannot express how grateful I am. And for all of you, Jamie, I see you. Some of my college teammates, Iceberg Slim, aka Marquise Fair, and all of them folks who are on. Thank y'all. I appreciate it. Again, share this. Let me say that Ask the Black Preacher is a open and honest dialogue about all things social justice, black liberation, religion, spirituality, politics, and some more things. So no question is off limits, and we ask that you would submit your questions, and I'll try to go through the comment section and answer them to the best of my ability as they come through. Hey, Michael Stewart. Hey, Tamika Greer. Hey, Darren Owens. Hey, Gary Wright. What up? Hey, Christina Boykin. Good evening to everybody. Let me lastly say I am a black preacher, unapologetically committed to social justice and black liberation. Black preachers are not monolithic. I don't speak for all black preachers, but I do speak as a black preacher. To that end, let me say a couple of things. Number one, the song that you heard coming in, again, was my dear brother Tyke T and his song No Though. I keep talking about that song and how they shot the video for it at Abyssinian Baptist Church and how much I appreciate Tyke T's music. That's one of my frat brothers too, by the way. But let me also invite any of you who have some original music that you want to play on the front end of Ask the Black Preacher in the weeks that come up. Please submit it to me. It has to be yours. Don't send me your friends, your cousins, your aunties, your uncles, your best artists, all of that other stuff. No, your stuff. Now, if you know somebody and they got something you want it to be shared, have them reach out to me. They can reach out to me on Facebook or on Twitter, Instagram. They can send an email to abcministries1@gmail.com. All of that good stuff, but I would appreciate that if y'all did a hey Matthew Williams and hey Chris Downey. What's up, homie? Yeah, we will talk hoop stuff, but I ain't got time right now. So let me also say, in the weeks to come, I will be bringing on some guests to Ask the Black Preacher. They have to be a black preacher, okay? This is Ask the Black Preacher. I ain't got no love lost for my white, Asian, Latinx brothers, sisters, friends, kin who are in the gospel ministry, who are preaching from any particular faith tradition. This is Ask the Black Preacher. Now, they can be from any black faith tradition, and I will be glad to. No, Carlos, no comments on that yet. But I'll be glad to interview them. Y'all can drop some names in this session or in the sessions to come. Hey, Kermit. Hey, Joseph Ivy. What's up? So I do want y'all to know that I'll be doing that over the next few weeks, so y'all can submit the names and we'll try to bring them on. Let me offer up a few of my opening remarks about some critical issues that I think are going on, and then I will do my best to submit to your questions. I hope y'all will be dropping them in the comment section. Now I'll answer them again as best as I can as we go forward. Let me start with a rewind of sorts from this past Sunday's sermon. I actually preached part 3 of Holla Anyhow, which was about blind Bartimaeus in Mark chapter 10, verses 46 through 50. The first week I preached that, I talked about how we should be responding to God's presence. When I preached the second week of that, part 2 of that, I was talking about how we need to stay pinpointed on God's power. And this past week, I talked about how we should be obedient to God's petition. How in that particular passage, the same people who rebuked Bartimaeus for shouting out, crying out, trying to get Jesus' attention. Thanks for tagging Melik, Joseph. I definitely want that brother to get on. The same way Bartimaeus cried out and then they rebuked him. What ended up happening is Jesus told the same people who rebuked him to go tell him, I said, come here. I was really gripped for the last several weeks about how the text said that blind Bartimaeus, not lame Bartimaeus, not deaf Bartimaeus, blind Bartimaeus was sitting on the side of the road. By the time we get to verse 50 and Jesus tells the same people who tried to shut him up to tell him, I said, stand up and come here, the text says he stood up, took off his cloak, and ran to Jesus. So I talked about that this past Sunday, and the part of what I'm talking about, I guess, hey Brianna, is what it means for us to stay committed and diligent in our call, and how even in these times of social distancing, God shows up, meets us where we are, and provides us with the opportunity to be changed and transformed and liberated from all forms of suppression and oppression. So that was this past Sunday's sermon. Feel free to go through the Abyssinian page and check out the service from last week. We also hope that you will spend some time with us this Sunday for Mother's Day during our virtual worship service Sunday at 10 o'clock. Now, having said that, there are a few things that I want to discuss, some of which I discussed on our live stream on Sunday that weren't part of the sermon. I talked some about the challenge of churches reopening as the economy is being reopened. And, I'm unequivocal in my stance about the need for us to take every precautionary measure possible to ensure that we don't have our parishioners in harm's way. As such, as the pastor of Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church, I am in nobody's hurry to get us back into that sanctuary until after it is clear that we have a better grasp on this COVID-19 infection. I am not trying to do any graveside services if I can help it. I'm not trying to do anybody's funeral through a screen if I can help it. So I just don't want to have to deal with that. I want to do all I can to keep our folks safe. I can't trust some of the information that is coming out of federal government, county government, and city government. So I'm going to take all of the precautionary measures. I encourage all of the brothers, sisters, friends, and kin of the faith to do the same, but I know everybody has to move based upon how they feel God has convicted them to move. I hear you, Bree. I hear you, cuz. We'll see. So, what up, Daryl, and what up, Sean, and Pastor Givens, and Sister Darlene, Daniel Haywood. What up, LOC family? Thank y'all again for all tuning in, and again, hope you will share this. So, regarding church openings, one of the last churches in Memphis that's going to be open is Abyssinian. Whether that means we have to wait till after the summer, whether that means I have to wait till Watch Night 2021, okay? I want to do all I can to keep our people safe. So until then, y'all can meet us at Abyssinian online. I also want to talk about an article that I wrote that was published in the Commercial Appeal just yesterday. So plenty of people have read it and shared it. It gave me some wonderful feedback. The title of it is, After COVID-19, No More Business as Usual. I'm simply trying to suggest that we have to reorient and restructure our medical, our economic, our spiritual, and our political infrastructure right now. If we don't do it now, at the height of this pandemic, if we don't start restructuring and reorganizing our society to move away from a poverty-based society to an equity-based society, I don't know if we'll be able to do it in this particular generation. So, brothers and sisters, friends and kin, I hope that you will read it. It's on my timeline. It's on the Abyssinian timeline. I'm sure you can find it. I guess they would say some of anywhere. Okay. So I wanted to talk about a couple more things, and then I'll do my best to answer any questions that y'all may have. Hey, Sister Henry Brooks, and hey, Sister Demetria Moore. Thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate it. So, I want to recommend that every city that has a substantial number of black people in it. In Memphis, we 65% of the population. In Shelby County, we 51%. So we the majority of the county and the city. I'm talking about if you got 30%, 25%. If you got a substantial number of black folks in, matter of fact, let's do it right now. Everybody type in the comment section, black folks. Go ahead. I know. It's going to make you feel better because I know some of y'all scared to talk about black folks. I'm not. So go ahead and type it. Type black folks. Type black folks because that's what we're talking about. Black folks. Okay. So if you got 25, if you got a substantial number of black folks in your city, in your county, here's what I am going to recommend. I appreciate the proposal that is being put together by Senator Kamala Harris out of California. She is presenting it before Congress, and it is called the Racial and it's COVID-19 Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force. I want to see every state replicate this. I want to see every county replicate this if you got black folks in it, and I want to see every city replicate this. So I'm going to be advocating that Shelby County and Memphis, Tennessee put together a COVID-19 Racial and Ethnic Disparities Task Force. The purpose of the task force, and I think this goes from the federal level to the state level to the local level, bring together healthcare and other policy experts, community-based organizations, and federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial leaders to confront the racial and ethnic disparities of the coronavirus head on. Here's what's more important for me. The bill would require the Department of Health and Human Services to establish an interagency task force of policy experts, community leaders, and government officials to make data-driven recommendations to federal agencies about directing crucial resources. Stuff like testing kits, testing supplies, personal protective equipment. I'm going to say loan money. Okay, so all of this to say this. At every level, if black folks are going to get what we need out of these relief packages, things that come from the federal government, things that they may be allocating at the county level, the state level, all this other stuff. If black folks going to get it, we have to provide some oversight to the organizations, the governmental entities that are going to be allocating the medical and economic resources. If we do not, Charles Barkley be saying, I guarantee you, it will be an inequitable distribution of the medical and economic resources. The data says black folks and black communities are being hit the hardest and the worst by COVID-19, which should mean, Sean Whitehead, Rosie, whatever, it should mean that we allocate the resources to the place that it is needed the most. The place it is needed the most. The place that the data says it is needed the most is in the same black communities that have suffered from all manner of disinvestment and exploitation over the past several years. Yes, Sister Henry Brooks, we need to know who's getting the money. We need to have oversight over the money. I'm saying not just the money, all of the resources. If somebody is bringing masks into Memphis, Tennessee, we need to know where the masks are going to be sent and based upon what rationale. Because the data shows that black folks need it. Black folks need it, okay? Carlos, let me try to sneak your question in right now. Why did such an overwhelming amount of Memphis folks vote for a Republican mayor? And I think he would be saying, for those who maybe unfamiliar with this, and I talk about this in my article that was published yesterday in Commercial Appeal. That's this. Hey, Catherine Jackson. Jim Strickland is self-identified as a Democrat. He has ran as a Democrat. Now his standing with the Democratic Party in Memphis and Shelby County, who knows? But he would be called by most accounts a Dino, a Democrat in name only. So Carlos, is asking on the Abyssinian page, why did people vote for him? And what I say early on in the article is that, 2019, COVID-19 has shown us that 2019 claims about momentum, which was one of the mayor's taglines, Memphis has momentum. I said that these things about momentum was nothing more than highly funded fashion shows that were used to cover up increasing poverty. Because one thing we know has happened under the mayor's tenure is that poverty has, hey, Dr. O, poverty has increased. It has not decreased. Poverty has increased in Memphis and Shelby County. COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic, is exposing the depth of these economic and medical inequities. They're tied together. Obviously, people who had, y'all know how the healthcare system is set up. Bernie Sanders was, gung-ho about this for the longest. The medical system right now is set up such that people who have access to the most economic resources usually have better access to medical resources and healthcare. So, I think that, and I said in the article, it worked. The media campaign about momentum worked. Mayor Strickland won in a landslide, and now he, in tandem with Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris, are leading us through this particular pandemic. Right? I mean, I said a long time ago, hey, Pastor Hadari, hey, Jose, Dr. Morales, hey, brother. I said, hey, Tequila, I said that Memphis is going to get exactly what we have been asking for. This is what we're getting right now. As a matter of fact, article came out earlier. I was reading. Mayor Strickland is trying to figure out how to take some of the federal CARES Act money, which is money allocated to the city for coronavirus response, over $113 million. He's trying to figure out, he's public about this, he's trying to figure out how he could take some of that money and cover a budget shortfall for the city in terms of staffing and stuff like this. Now, before you dismiss it, I understand it to a degree because many of our essential workers are government workers. He wants to try to make sure he can't lay folks off. Okay? I hear that. I'm also saying it's interesting how money can be raised for private dollars. Mayor Strickland raised $6.1 million in private funds to help the police department that already gets over half of the city budget. I think it's about $256 million total. So I think the public safety gets about 60% of the Memphis city budget, and the Memphis Police Department gets over half of that. Okay? And he went out and raised some private dollars. More, $6.1 million in private funds. I've been asking, no media outlet has ran it yet. I've been asking, where are all of those corporations that have received tax subsidies from, hey Melanie, that has received tax subsidies from the taxpayers of Memphis, who are by and large poor folks? Y'all got tax breaks, hundreds of millions of dollars in tax breaks over the last several years. Why y'all not putting money up now? Now, some of them are. Well, I don't know. There are some people. There are some funds. I think the Community Foundation has helped to raise several $1 million, and then they allocating some of these small grants and stuff like that. But I'm saying, hey, everybody needs to be putting their money where their mouth is. At the end of the day, hey, Tiffany, what's up, cuz? At the end of the day, these dollars have to be accounted for. And what I am pushing, as I'm trying to shift this paradigm, is to suggest, no, Carlos, Sawyer and Harrington did not split the vote, because if you add up every other vote from every other person, be very clear, Mayor Strickland won in a landslide. So you could have took Harrington out and ran Tammy based upon those numbers, then Strickland still would have won. You could have took Tammy out and ran Harrington, and Strickland still would have won. That's another conversation. So I've answered some of your questions. I'm going to try to catch some of these other folks' questions. And don't forget to submit them, y'all. I'm not just trying to rant or ramble. I'm trying to share some of these ideas that are pressing on me, and then I want to spend the majority of our time between now and close to 7 o'clock answering questions that y'all may have, okay? But I'm trying to suggest, if we don't tilt the economic scale and make it more equitable, which means people who need the resources the most should be the first ones to get them. We're still talking about getting adequate testing in some of these poor black communities. That's because, in my estimation, the Shelby County Health Department was slow to the fire because they would not release racial data based upon not just zip code, not just age, not just gender, but race in terms of testing. They didn't do it until weeks had gone by. Then we started to see these hotspot maps where they were trying to say, based upon this zip code, this what? No. What you are seeing is where people have access to testing. So, at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, hey, Dr. Futrell, hey, Pastor Stephen Young, hey, Shani. And again, thank y'all again for tuning in. I deeply appreciate it, and I hope that you would share this and share your questions and comments in the comment section. So, again, Shelby County Health Department, slow to the fire. And if we don't disaggregate, this is why I appreciate what Senator Harris is proposing. You have to disaggregate or break down the data by race. That's when you realize how bad black folks, y'all type it again. Come on, black folks. Come on, black folks. Y'all know what I'm talking about, black folks. Come on, type it. Some of y'all scared to type it anyway. Carlos, I want to see you type it. You typing so much stuff on the Abyssinia page. So type it, okay? Black folks. Black folks. Yes, Kyle, I deeply believe that Shelby County in Memphis, Tennessee is a microcosm of what's going on elsewhere in the country, which is why I say any place in the country that has a substantial number of black folks should try to get this type of task force implemented at the state and local levels. Hey, Pastor Hammonds, at the state and local levels. Yes, I have said several times for several years now, Memphis is ground zero for democracy. You wouldn't have a 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law, without the Memphis Massacre. Okay? And in most instances, hey, Doe, what's up? Doe, I want to thank you for tuning in Sunday. I need to follow up with you too. I appreciate you tuning in with us Sunday. Thank some of y'all for talking. I'm talking black to you, Sister Henry. I'm talking black, okay? This is actually the black preacher. Emphasis on black. I know some of us scared to say it. Dr. Sewin, thank you. Black folks, okay? Kyle, I said that Memphis is ground zero for democracy. And I've said that democracy is on life support in Memphis. I said this maybe 2015, 2016 or something. And as we see, as the days go by, democracy looks like the pulse is getting weaker and weaker. So yes, I think, hey, CJ, what's up? Yes, I think what is happening in Memphis and Shelby County is a microcosm of what's happening in the country. To that point, I'm saying what Senator Harris has proposed as this COVID-19 ethnic and racial disparities task force is something that I believe, what up, F-Dub, should be implemented in every state and especially in every city and county that has a large number of black folks, okay? I want to say one more thing before I just go straight to y'all's questions. But again, thank y'all so much for tuning in and for chiming in, even if you ain't typing nothing but black folks. But I want y'all to submit the questions that you may have about the stuff that you hear us up in here trying to talk about. I got to say one more thing about our dear brother who was executed by all accounts, all reasonable accounts, murdered by racial bigotry at the least, white supremacy more than likely, and that's Brother Ahmad Armory. I definitely want to, yes, CJ, all that. I definitely want to lift up this brother's memory, pledge our support to him and to his family. Hey, Toshiba, praying that, justice will be served. I want to talk to us for a second, so black folks lean in. And I understand what I'm about to say. Some of y'all may disagree with. I'll be willing to. Thank you, Kyle. Yes, Lord, in your mercy, on behalf of Ahmad Armory and his family. I haven't watched the video. Okay, here's what I want to talk to y'all about for a second, and then really just kind of sort of take questions and comments for you. I haven't watched the video. I don't want to watch it. Okay, I'm trying my best not to. Matter of fact, if y'all got the video out there, I know some of y'all, and I know some of y'all mean well, so I'm not throwing no shade. Okay, some of y'all want folks to watch it. Okay, I'm not. I have seen enough Black death on my timeline, in my inbox, on my email, on major media outlets. I've seen enough of it. I think that I can read about it and be informed. I think that as long as Brother Ahmad's legal team has seen the stuff, that's fine. What I'm concerned about, y'all tell me how y'all feel about this. I agree with you, Joseph. We don't need to. I don't need to. I think we've seen this story. we've seen this script, and I don't want us to normalize Black death so much that we desensitize ourselves, where we don't even. And I'm not saying that you can't be indignant, mad, pissed off, upset, enraged about what you see. Okay, cool. And you know what? I'll do it like this. If that's something that you feel that you need to see it, then okay. Maybe you do. I don't. I've seen enough of these videos. Hey, June, and hey, Pastor Mike. I've seen enough of these. Yes, Crystal. I've seen enough of these, and I don't care to see any more of them. I know that they are happening. I'm inclined to believe the stories that Black folks are telling. Come on, type it again, Black folks. Y'all know what I'm talking about. As Sister Henry said, I'm talking Black to you. I don't intend to view too much more of this stuff. Hey, big homie, what up, Gino? I'm not trying. So look, if you share it, don't tag me. I'm not trying to see the video. I don't need to see another Black man, woman, boy, girl, trans, queer person. I don't need to see another Black human being sprayed down by nobody and then the video go viral. I will advocate as aggressively as I can for justice for him and his family. Y'all know this. Check my receipts. But at some point, man, I mean, we should ask. Since y'all not asking me any questions, I'm asking. What up, Justin? I'm ask. Why don't we see white death being paraded, even on social media like that? I mean, why not? I remember watching stuff on the media where I remember a white female journalist was killed while she was reporting, and they showed everything up to the shooting and then stopped showing it. But if it's Walter Scott, if it's Philanda Castile, we heard the tape of Trayvon Martin, so on and so forth. I mean, yes, Dr. O, I think this is re-traumatizing some stuff. I wanna, so those are the things that I wanted to talk about, things that have been on my heart. I'm gonna try to respond to some of y'all questions in the last, 30 minutes or so. So, Sister Henry Brooks, and if y'all don't know who this freedom fighting sister is, I want you to just Google Henry, Henri, Henry E. Brooks, Shelby County. Some stuff should come up about the juvenile courts, and so I'm grateful for her. We've connected on social media over the past couple of days, exchanged some contact information, and I'm so fond of her fierce advocacy work over the past several years that I'm glad that she's on. So she asked, what does transparency and accountability regarding this new paradigm look like in the current Black political leadership environment? Sister Henry, here's what I think about that, and that's a fantastic question. I shared some of this. I think it was Joseph who asked me this last week, or maybe it was Kyle, asking about accountability. And I'm glad Siju is on here, who is, my partner in crime with Up the Vote 901. He would be what we would call the chief operations operations officer. And I agree with him. He kind of sort of helped me get this vantage point. Like, until we have a voting block, until we have a base, we can't really hold people accountable other than making sure that their record is out before the public, attempting to shame some of them. We know some of them just simply have zero conscience, so they can't be shamed. But the best way to hold somebody accountable for their decisions, like if you're on the board or if you are managing someone and their job performance is not adding up, the way you hold them accountable is first you give them a warning, verbal warning. Then you write them up, you start a paper trail. And after too many times, you fire them. How do you fire an elected official? Or fire somebody who's been appointed? Either the person who appointed them has to fire them, or if it's an elected official, the only way you fire them is to vote them out. Now, here's the challenge, Sister Henry, and I'm pretty sure you would agree with me on this. And this is why I said something in the article yesterday about pandering to political elites. Because the black political class in Memphis, generally speaking, is so beholden to this unjust, inequitable political infrastructure. Too many people had to kiss white rings in order to get in their political position. So white folks have access to the resources because of structural, systemic, institutional, organizational inequity. So now they have the purse strings. We have to organize enough people to outmaneuver them. We've seen some of this happen in certain spaces, but definitely not to the degree by which it needs to be. But until then, transparency looks like us trying to put the record out there for people to see, because very rarely do we have, like right now, most of what is happening. How many people are on the economic task force that the city and the county have put together in response to COVID-19? How many people are on the general task force? Most of us don't know, because they're not as transparent. The city and the county is not as transparent as we would probably need them to be. I think it's fair to say county administration a little bit more transparent than the city administration, but neither one of them, could spike the football in the end zone saying that this is the premier model for transparency. So, now you have to search for this stuff. But transparency means us doing the research that we can. I want to salute Wendy C. Thomas and MLK 50, Justice and Journalism website. They are helping with transparency because they're doing righteous journalism. I mean, it's a breath of fresh air. Just telling the truth. Not beholding to structural, institutional, governmental power, right? Inequitable power. So I think that's how we have to do it. And until we can raise up a black political leadership that is, unashamed about being black, unapologetic about advocating for black folks and black communities without this whole, we got to reach across the aisle. Well, black folks been reaching across the aisle for 400 years. I mean, go back as far as you want to. So that's one of the ways I think we would do that and respond to that, Sister Henry. So I hope that would adequately answer your question. Carlos says, why are non-racist black folks? I'm not answering that. Carlos asked another question. Why are non-racist black folks killing each other? The same reason other people kill each other. Because it's a human tendency to kill people who are in. Most crime, most acts of violence are acts of violence based upon proximity. So if you got a bunch of people of the same ethnicity relocated to the same space, in all likelihood, they're going to end up committing acts of violence with each other. So what I really want to say is, don't ask that question to me anymore. It's a question that has been answered by a million people. It is a relatively irrelevant and rather ignorant question. So please, nobody ever asks me anything about black on black crime. Okay? Just don't. There's all kind of stuff out there you can read, and I won't waste my time answering it anymore. So I indulged you that time, Carlos. Please don't ask that anymore. Let me take some other questions. And again, thank y'all for this. Joseph Reed says, Curious about the intersections of black political structure and the particular black religious culture of the Church of God in Christ in Memphis. First thing I think about nowadays when I think about the Church of God in Christ in Memphis is my bishop. I call him my bishop. I just think he's a good brother, wonderful preacher. And I think, he is one of the rising stars in the Church of God in Christ. That's Bishop Linwood Dillard. So I think about him. Not only that, I mean, I was Kojic in my teenage years. My mother, my first sermon was preached at Faith Evangelistic Church of God in Christ, where the elder W.C. Askew Sr. is the pastor, right? And so I know something about the Kojic Church. The black religious culture of the Kojic Church is, I think, an extension of the broader black conservative religious movement connected to all manner of white evangelical theology. There's that. And I think the black political structure is also innately conservative for myriad of reasons. There's a lot of people writing about this. Brittany Cooper can talk about this ad nauseum, I'm pretty sure. Eddie Glaude could talk about this ad nauseum, I'm pretty sure. Both of them can tell you how some of these, conservative and by most accounts, this ain't no shade to the Church of God in Christ. By most accounts, the Church of God in Christ is a black conservative religious organization. I mean, we still see them struggling to affirm and ordain women in 2020. And I think that if you look at the strands of black political conservatism, you also find black religious conservatism aligned with it. So I guess one of the questions I would ask is, what do we do? What do we do in regards to this? I know what I am trying to do is educate and liberate as many people as possible with regards to religion and politics. Is one of the reasons why we have Ask the Black Preacher. So, I think that that's the best thing we could do right now, along with organizing folks. So, for instance, and I'm going to say this too, there are people who come to Abyssinian and say stuff about how much black stuff we talk. I just say, hey, I hear you, I understand. And, there are other churches in the city of Memphis, and most of them won't talk have the black stuff. The mantra of Abyssinian Baptist Church now is, or the motto, that we've been dubbed the blackest church in Memphis and Shelby County, and folks don't even really contest us for the title. So, I mean, there's places to go. But, we have to educate, have to liberate, have to organize, and I think we serve ourselves better by highlighting those in the black religious tradition and the black political tradition that we feel like adequately embrace and espouse our values and the things that we think will help us the most. I think that's about all we can do in this particular phase until we organize for more power. CJU says we can honor Black Lives Matter using the social media strategy to make police brutality a thing, and that's for people who are still straddling because we know better. That's more of a comment, I guess. Kyle Stevenson says, can you give some thoughts about what Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms posted on IG about our black siblings in line to buy Jordans in the middle of a pandemic? I didn't see her post. What I would say about, black folks buying Jordans in the middle of a pandemic is, and let me try to angle it to Memphis because I'm more familiar with the ins and outs of Memphis and Shelby County than I am Atlanta from a political standpoint, from a social standpoint. And I'm sure that there are people in Memphis who line up at the Nike factory to buy Jordans too. When the state was being reopened, and there was a lot of chatter about who should do what and who should go where, and people would say, ain't nobody making you go nowhere. No, that's true. Right, but what do you expect black folks to do if we've been conditioned to, one, long for the same material accoutrements that other folks long for? Like, I don't know people who don't like nice clothes, nice shoes, nice cars, nice houses, right? Do certain people probably indulge? Yeah, but people like nice stuff. And the basic rudiments of supply and demand suggest that there are certain types of things that if you want them, you have to. If there are certain things that are in high demand and low supply, Jordans would be one of them. And this for me was just a carrot being dangled in front of our faces. Now, here's what I don't know. Maybe somebody could school me on this. I don't know that the Jordans weren't already scheduled to come out. Maybe they were. I don't know. Maybe they weren't. So, was this some special release that they said, hey, now's the perfect time? Somebody please, Kyle, maybe you know something about that. I don't know. But what I will say is, I don't want to spend the bulk of my energy trying to chastise people living on the margins for exhibiting basic, normal human behavior. I've been in conversation with a preacher in the city, offline, offline. We got a decent relationship. And, we had these conversations about, are you going to spend majority of your time? He would probably ask me, you spend all your time talking about the system. You need to get our people in check. To which I'll say, well, first of all, I talk to our people too. I just don't spend a lot of my time in public talking about our people because I'm not trying to blame victims or, beat down people who are already being burdened down. And then I'll say to him, I don't think you say enough about the system. So for me, since I am concerned about power and equity, I want to leverage my voice on issues based upon power dynamics. So if anything, I would say, did Nike have to sell them that day? Did Jordan have to put them out that day? But if they out there, what I'm going to tell people? I don't know. So that's my spiel on it, Kyle. I hope that will satisfy your curiosity. I see some other comments and stuff like that, y'all. I'll try to get to some of them. If you are, Sister Henry, you come in several times. Apology accepted, Carlos. Thank you for your candor and responsiveness. Rashad says, we are taught not to kill whites. This was taught during slavery with black codes and slave codes. Explain Nat Turner. Explain Denmark Vesey. Explain Gabriel Prosser. No, we're not taught not to kill whites. And it's not that we don't kill white people. I think the way that we interpret some of the happenings is rather anecdotal, which means it may be based upon some of the small things we know personally, but not the broader systemic, structural, institutional, statistical stuff. 82%, yeah, Byron, 82% of all deaths come at the hands of people who look like them and live near them. Like, I want y'all to check something out. This is case in point. Crystal, I'm going to come to your question in just a second. Here's case in point. And this is why I can appreciate Carlos, apologizing, and saying point taken. One question asked about black on black crime. And now millions of comments. We've talked about the Ethnic and Racial Task Force, Sister Kamala Harris. I can go back and count how many comments were discussed in that. My article from yesterday, no more business as usual. Some of this stuff, like, we are consumed. It's like almost a knee-jerk reaction to where when there's an opportunity for us to hone in on black people displaying, again, basic, normal human behaviors. Our knee-jerk reaction, based upon our conditioning, our social engineering, if you will, is to just focus on that. So, Henrietta Brooks says, please explain why we are not and cannot be racist, depending upon one's definition of racism, because Ibram X. Kendi, in a book I recommend for everybody, Stand from the Beginning, tracing the origins of racist ideas in America, he says black folks can be racist. I disagree. Other sociologists and cultural theorists would argue that racism is privilege plus power. And so if black folks are victimized by those in power, look, I might have bigotry, I might have xenophobia, I might have prejudice, I prejudge folks based upon how they look, but I can't incorporate it into the laws. I can't stop them from getting money at the bank. I can't stop them from moving into my neighborhood. So I don't have the systemic power that it takes to undergird racism. So black folks can be bigoted, prejudiced, stereotypes, because we're human, but we can't codify that stuff into laws that help sustain our bigotry, our xenophobia, and our stereotypes. Okay, so that's the difference between somebody being racist and racism, or somebody just being bigoted, prejudiced, so on and so forth. Crystal Nicole says, how do I differentiate between victim blaming and personal accountability when talking to black folks? Great, wonderful question that I deeply appreciate. I differentiate it based upon reasonable assessments of power. I'm glad you said this, Crystal. I literally started to post this yesterday. You know, you type, and delete. What up, Dewan? What up, Cardell? And all of y'all. Thanks. Hey, John Harris. They don't contest the title, Justin. But Crystal, I started to post. It's amazing to me, or something along those lines. I was thinking, like, it's amazing to me that the only people we talk about putting tough love on is black folks. Black folks don't talk about tough love when it comes to white folks in power. We don't really even talk about personal accountability. I'm glad, Henry Brooks was asking earlier, Sister Henry was like, hey, what's up with transparency and accountability, even though the black political class? I'm saying across the board, when you start talking about accountability. So, for instance, I would ask, I'm not asking this to you, Crystal, but I'm saying this generally. So, for people who have children, who do you put the bulk of the blame on if a child is acting inappropriately? Most of the time now, folks going to go back to parent, guardian. This is why when they're in school, a parent or a guardian has to sign paperwork assuming responsibility, at least to some degree, for the behavior of the child. But when we start talking about black folks, it's wow. Wow. We always want to hold black folks accountable. Even though in the social and political, and by most accounts, depending upon how you're doing the math, the spiritual and the religious economies, we are the people who are disadvantaged. These are just basic facts. These are just basic laws. So you also find this, Crystal, check the record. Black folks are some of the most religious and morally upright people in the world. But we the same people who we say we got to talk about accountability with. So victim blaming is when you do not do an adequate assessment of the power dynamics, and you don't recognize when people have abused power, and you don't recognize when people have been abused. Dr. Oradine, who was, my dear sister, Nigerian sister, but she's an ethicist. She used to teach at Memphis Theological Seminary. Now she's at Bright Theological Seminary in Dallas, Texas. Said something earlier about when we were talking about Ahmad Arbery's videos and re-traumatizing, right? For us to see Black Death over and over and over again, looped over, it re-traumatizes us. I recommend this for everybody. Joy DeGrye's book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, talking about trauma, generational trauma, and she argues that it can be passed down genetically, right? So if you start thinking about the trauma that black folks deal with, then it makes sense for some of our behaviors. Matter of fact, some of our behaviors probably should be worse than they are. But we are still, by most accounts, the most morally upright folks. But we always the ones who get blamed as immoral. There are studies on this. There are histories that have been written about this. So I deeply appreciate this question, Crystal, because it is a sincere and a poignant question. Because I don't want people to think that somehow when you are critiquing the system and the structures and the institutions and the society and the culture, that somehow you letting black folks off the hook. Really, we're not. No, we're just trying to hold other people as accountable as black folks have been held accountable for stuff that oftentimes we didn't even do. Okay, Crystal, I hope that answers your question, but I deeply appreciated that. Who else? In this town, Henry says money equals political power. You're absolutely right. So we're going to do something about that. Let me see who else I can answer a question to. We only got a few more minutes left. I really want to hear from some of those. Martin Espinoza, what's up, Doc? Pastor Kennebrew, hey. Look, thank all of y'all. Larry Robinson, thank you for this. I still have to go back and watch the episode of Funky Politics that y'all sent me. Siju says, we know tough love is racist and wrong because we only want it for black folks. The way to get beyond the idea of personal responsibility as the cause is to look at similarly situated people. Hey, D. Monet. And he's right. So this is what I'm saying. Look at how black folks act in a certain social environment and then see how other ethnicities act in the same social environment. And I'm telling you what you're going to see. I mean, there's studies out there to do this. Jameson Hunter, what's up, Fi? Chill Will, what's happening? So look, Dr. Oradine has I want to share her comment. And re-traumatizing black people signals that black people aren't afforded the dignity of being treated humanly or humanely by not having to watch their communities be violated. Lord have mercy. That's deep. I wish I had written that. Okay? Look, we only got a few more minutes left. These are some wonderful comments and questions that I'm deeply fond of and grateful for. Here's what I'm going to ask of you, a couple things. Number one, if you know someone that you want me to have a candid conversation with over the next few weeks, that is a black preacher. If you know somebody that's a black preacher, okay? Black preacher. So, look, I'm going to say it this way. I'm going to try to help y'all. I'm going to try to cast the net wide. They don't have to be a pastor. They don't have to be, they can be someone who is in the field of religious studies who considers themselves a preacher. They don't have to be licensed and ordained such as, Matter of fact, just send me the names and then I'll go through them that way. Also, if you have some music material, you or somebody who you know has some music material, y'all want us to play it as the intro to Ask the Black Preacher, we'll be glad to do that. Please send it our way. I would hope that you all will join us this Sunday at 10 a.m. on this Facebook page, the Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church Facebook page. I would also hope that those who are able would send a contribution to Abyssinian Baptist Church. You can send it to 3890 Mill Branch, Memphis, Tennessee 38116, or you can send it via PayPal, paypal.me/4ABC. If you want to, you can cash out me, $ Dr. Earle Fisher, that's EARLE. I again want to thank all of you for your comments and your questions and your engagement. I am looking forward to next week's Ask the Black Preacher, which will be round 26. But for now, I am signing off as the Reverend Dr. Earle Fisher, who is the senior pastor of the Blackest Church in Memphis and Shelby County that we all know and love, Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church. I will see y'all next week. I am thankful again that you came. So join us Sunday, 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. In fact, jump on there about 9:50 because we're going to have some announcements and some more stuff that I want you to catch. But other than that, I'll see y'all next week. We signing out. Thank you for your time.
Tripping by music, NT.